Hello there everyone, my name is Nathan Birch. In this video I'm going to do the Lesson 5 Class 6 activity working with forms. So we'll create a new HTML page and open it with Live Server. So I'm in Lesson 5, I'm going to make a new folder called Class 6 and I'll make a new file called index.html and I'll make another new file called style.css. In the index.html file I'll go ahead and use the exclamation mark shortcut. And then I'm going to add a CSS link to our style sheet, and I'll call this Class 6 Forms. Okay. Let's open it up with Live Server. Okay, there we go. Create a form with the following: a text box for the user to enter their name. So I'm going to make a form. And then we'll make an input, and we'll say type text. And we'll say placeholder, please, we'll say first name or name. So this placeholder will show up inside the box until they start typing. Okay, so we could add a little label as well, but this doesn't say to. Okay, a text box for the user to enter their email address, a radio button to select their gender. So we'll say input, type will be email, and then we'll add another placeholder of email. And then we'll add an input checkbox. What did it say, radio? It said radio. Radio. Let me look at W3 Schools real quick. So I'm going to say HTML radio buttons. And we'll just copy one of these. I always get mixed up with like the names and values and stuff over here. So I'm going to just copy two of these because I need two of them. So we'll have a label and an input for each radio button. Okay, these can go, weird. Okay, and so this is for type radio, and we'll change the name from favorite language to gender. And then we'll have a male option and a female option. Change that to female. We'll change that ID to male. We don't need the IDs and stuff in here really, but we'll go ahead and leave them for now. Okay, so now if we go back and look over here, you can see we have our radio buttons, and so you can't have both of them selected because they both are for the same name. Okay, pretty sure if I change this to a different name, then I could have both of them selected, because they're not associated with each other. Okay, we want them both to be for gender. I'm going to add a break right here, just that there is a line separating those. A checkbox to say whether or not they want to receive emails. Okay, so I'm going to say input type checkbox. I'll say subscribe to emails. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, got a nice little checkbox right there. And then a submit button. Okay, so we'll have another input, and we'll say type is submit. Okay, and let's look at our form. Okay, there's our whole form. And then let's just add a little bit of style. It doesn't say, oh, it does say add style to make the form look professional. Okay, so I'm just going to say I can take this form action off. I don't need it. And then in styles.css, I'm just going to add for our form. Well, I'm going to start off with the body actually. Whoops. So I'll say for the body, we'll say width will be 80% of the page, and margin left will be 10% of the page. Form, we can say width is 100%, and we'll say text align center. And then we'll say form input type text. We'll go ahead and say, let's see, we'll say width 50%. Actually, let's say 40%. And then let's say margin, we'll have 2% on top and bottom. And then we'll say 2.5% on the sides. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Okay, so name is definitely a lot bigger than email. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Oh, it's because We have email right there. That's not a type text, it's type email. So I'm going to put a comma here. And I'm going to say for type email, we also want that to be 40%. Okay, let's actually say 45%, and then we'll split this in half, 1.25%. Make those just a little bit closer together. Okay. I also want to say font size is going to be 20 pixels, and let's also say padding is 10 pixels. That'll just make these inputs a little bit bigger. Let's add a border radius, and we'll say 5 pixels just to round those out a little bit, make them look a little bit smoother. Okay, those look really nice. All right, now let's go ahead and say for the radio buttons, let's add a little label here. I'll add like an H3. I'll say, well, let's make it an H4. And we'll say, please select your gender. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, let's make it an H3. H3. Please select your gender. And I want these to sit side by side as well. So let's take that break off. And that's all it took to make those side by side. And let's go ahead and say all labels inside the form. Let's say font size is 20 pixels as well. Make those just a little bit bigger. Okay, and then let's also put, I wonder what would happen if we put a margin bottom on this of like 15 pixels. Nope, that didn't work. That's okay, we can take that off. All right, we do have a break right there. We can just add another break. Okay, so we have those two just to add a little bit of space right there. All right, let's add another break after this checkbox as well. See what that looks like. Okay, let's add one more. Okay, nice and spaced out. And really on desktop, this is big enough that we could probably line up all these together. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So I'm going to give these a class. Yeah, so I'm going to give this a class. I'm going to say class mobile break. And I'm going to take this extra one off of here. And I'm going to take that off of there. Oops, there we go. And then we'll still keep that break. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say at media max width of, let's say like 800 pixels. And we'll say we have our mobile break. And we'll just say display block. And then up here, we'll say mobile break display hidden. So those breaks will be hidden everywhere except for when the screen is smaller. So let's see if that works. Okay. Let's see here. So that break. So this label and input. I wanted the subscribe to emails to show up next to that. I wonder why it didn't. Let's see if those breakpoints show up though later. That's less than 700. It doesn't really look like they're changing much. Now let me go ahead and select in here, see if we can find it. So I have that break, that mobile break, and display hidden is being overridden by something. Let's see here. By that. So we did display. Oh, I forgot to add. We'll just add a line height of 40 pixels, which would be like 2 breaks. Let's Google it real quick. So I'll say HTML break double height CSS. Change break height using CSS. Display block. Interesting. See if there's a better answer down here. So they just used a paragraph and they just used font size. Let's try font size, see if that works for us. So font size 200%. I'll refresh that. Yeah, that doesn't look like it worked. And displays on block. if you put it inside a height limited div. That sounds complicated. They just added margin. So I wonder if we said margin, and we just say, what if we said 20 pixels for the margin? That's not looking super hopeful. Alright, let's see here. And they use a border. Oh, but they have to put that content in there. That's probably what we're missing. Let's try that. I'm going to try this without the border for a second. We'll just have content. There we go. So I just needed something to put that margin around. And now that looks really great there. Okay. So you can see that break is gone, but there's still a little bit of a line break there. And I want those to show up side by side. Alright, so let's go ahead and Google how to get form input and radio buttons side by side. Radio, so that's just for radio buttons. Display inline. Let's copy that. It's coming to here. And so we have these ones up here. So we'll say input, so form input type equals radio, and we'll say display inline, and then we'll also do this for checkbox, because those are the ones that we want to have show up side by side. Let's see if that works for us. It's not looking too good. I don't know, I don't see the display inline there. Input radio and checkbox. Okay, so that is inline. And let's also say for form label, display inline. Oop, need a comma there. There we go. And I'll hit refresh. Okay, I just realized that this subscribe to emails is not in a label. And that's probably our issue right there. So let's go ahead and put that into a label, because that's where we're able to put our styles. Let's put that there. And there's still a break. So I took out that break and it put them side by side, but it should have just been a mobile break. It's interesting. So let me comment out these mobile breaks just for a sec, and we'll hit refresh. So that's what it looks like without the mobile breaks. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some spacing on that subscribe to emails. So I'm going to add a class on here that says subscribe, and then down here I'll go ahead and just say form label dot subscribe, and we'll say margin left 50 pixels. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, that just gives us a little bit of space. It's still centered. Okay, but we probably want some space between that and the submit button. So we'll say 0 and maybe like 35 pixels. Okay, so to put some space on both of those. Oh, except we want that check mark right next to it. So we will say margin left 35 pixels, and then let's find that checkbox. So we'll say for our checkbox, we'll say margin right 35 pixels. Okay, and now those are nice and close to each other. Okay, so please select your gender. Doesn't really make sense having that as an H3 there. So I'm going to take that off. Let's put a span right here. It says please select your gender. Take that off. Please select your gender, male, female, subscribe to emails, submit. Okay, and then we want to add those line breaks when we get smaller. So let's put in these breaks again, and we'll just modify the CSS to make it look nice when those are there. Okay, so that looks okay. Okay, but it's still broken right there. And so I'm just going to Google hide break on desktop view. Ignore break with CSS. That looks strikingly similar to what we did. Oh, we said display hidden. We'll say none. Okay. All right, let's click over here. Hey, that looks better. There. That looks great. Now we would just want to change the font size on that. Please select your gender. And that'd be it. So let's just go ahead and add that. I think this is our only span in here. So I'm just going to come into here, and I'm also going to say form span will be that 20 pixel font size as well. And that already looks better. Okay. So I hope that this helps you guys. Mobile breaks are a super effective way of handling things like this. And so I hope that this helps. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.